Good morning. Welcome to worship with the community of the First Unitarian Church of Omaha. I'm the Reverend Shari Woodbury, the church's minister. Whether you're attending online or in person, I'm glad you have chosen to join us on this beautiful morning. We're here to worship. Worship from the Latin means to remember that which is of worth, to call us back to our highest values as we gather in community. A special welcome to visitors. This congregation is a community of all ages and abilities. It is a community with a rainbow of gender and sexual identities. It is a community of diverse cultural and class backgrounds. We draw from many sources of inspiration and share common liberal religious values. Whoever you may be, I invite you to bring your whole self into this space and know that you will be gladly received. If you are joining us online, I encourage you, if you haven't already, to create a YouTube account and sign in when you attend online. That way you can use the comment feature to share a joy and concern or simply greet others who are attending in that way. Those in the sanctuary are invited to go down to the common room downstairs in the basement. Every week we have coffee and tea and conversation after worship for those who would like to visit. You also have the option of taking a to-go cup and visiting out in the beautiful garden in the fresh air. However you're attending worship, I encourage you to check out upcoming events around the church. I'll mention a few. We do have something else special happening after worship today, a Q&A with our COVID task force. If you have any questions about what we know or don't know or what we understand the best practices to be right now for dealing with COVID as individuals, you are welcome to attend and ask a question or simply listen. Dr. Jennifer Larson, who is one of our task force members, will be sharing some updates, and other folks will be on hand from the task force as well. If you haven't already, members, please mark your calendar for September 25th when we have a special congregational meeting called by our board of directors as part of a process of taking a stand as a congregation for reproductive justice. So please join us in person or online on Zoom on September 25th, immediately following worship, to be part of that. If you're not a member, you're welcome to attend. You just won't be able to vote. Let's see, I want to mention that AHA, Atheists, Humanists, and Agnostics, a discussion group here at the church, is inviting folks to its first meeting this fall on Zoom. That'll be on October 6th. There's a flyer out in the foyer with information and more info on the church website under Engage on the AHA page. This group is on October 6th, will be focusing on the seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all life and the pressing problem of climate change. All are welcome to take part in that conversation. And last but not least, very exciting news. If you haven't already heard, are you ready to have a big party as a church community once again? Woo, yes, okay, well, we are going to do that. October 28th, which is the Friday, right around Halloween weekend, we're going to have an in-person auction party as part of our Heart and Hand annual church auction. And that'll be in the common room. There will be costumes, conversation, door prizes, and of course the big silent auction, and you'll be able to see the donated items there in the common room. Hopefully also we'll have some munchies, food and drink to take part in as well. So hope you'll be a part of that. We will be doing online bidding as well for those who don't feel able to join us in person. And the part two of that is that this is a big event and we need lots of help to make it happen. We have some wonderful volunteers involved already, but many hands make light work, and we could use some more folks to pitch in a variety of different ways. The focus right now is on the front end of the auction, so collecting donations, data entry into auction software, many easily learned tasks for those who have a little bit of time to help. So please say yes if the ministry team council contacts you to be a part of that, or you can reach out to them at mtc@firstuuomaha.org. Let's see, anybody curious about this little item here? There are more of them, and if you are young we'll give the young the first chance, or young at heart, and would like one of these, raise your hand. And what you're going to get to do during the service is particularly during music, use this to help us create some rhythm, some watery rhythm. And there'll be another time during the service when I'll invite you to use these to help us with our water ingathering. All right, so raise your hand if anybody else wants one. I think we've got 10 or so. And by the way to gently do this is like this. Gentle. Can we practice a gentle rhythm? Yeah, that's good. Okay. Each week, we acknowledge that where we meet for worship as the First Unitarian Church of Omaha is the land of the Omaha Oto Nations, and that Indigenous people in the greater community have been marginalized and made invisible. We want to recognize their presence among us and aspire to work with them to resolve issues like poverty, displaced children, and murdered and missing Indigenous women, the MMIW. At this time, as part of our intergenerational service, I invite forward Martin with his parents, Rebecca and James, to light our chalice. As they light the flame, you all can join me in the chalice lighting words by echoing each line after me if you'd like to do so. Spark of the Spirit, cupped in earth's embrace, light of love, alive in all creation. As we kindle this flame, we rekindle our connection to the sacred web of life. Thank you. And now Lita Magisano will come forward to join me in our call to worship. These are words of Molly Hausch Gordon, adapted.
We gather together tenderly, like drops of dew on a leaf of grass.
Hopefully, like gathered raindrops in a cloud.
Gleefully, like water rushing in a stream to the sea.
Deeply, like groundwater pulled up from a well.
We gather from every direction.
For another year of growth and depth.
Another year of companionship and hope.
Another year of learning to love this world.
We gather like the water that joins us across all creation.
The water that connects us within and without.
Merging and flowing across the entire world.
Our opening hymn is number 188 in the gray hymnal. Note that while masks are not required in the sanctuary, we do ask you to wear a good mask if you'd like to sing, since this is a higher risk activity. It's also fine to just listen if you prefer. Our choir director, William Miller, is going to direct us in singing this as a round, number 188, and you can rise if you'd like.
Need two different groups to sing, so I'd like to make this side part one, and this side will be part two. So we'll all sing through it once and then go into our ones and twos.
Come, wherever you are, wandering
Lovely. You may be seated. Our Director of Lifespan Religious Education, Christina Strong, has a story for all ages to share, and I believe she invites the kids to actually stay in their seats this time, and remember when you use your ribbons to be gentle.
All right. Well, just to challenge us again, this is kind of like a round, but a little bit less organized. We are going to make a human rainstorm to fill our river that Shari's going to be talking about today. So I would like those on this end to start doing actions when I start doing them and to change when I change. And then sort of, a couple seconds after your neighbor, you start doing the next thing, and then we'll move all the way across the sanctuary. That make sense? Okay, so let's start with some snapping. I forgot something. We need a little bit of wind to get this storm to come to us. Let's do some wind. All right, now we're going to stop. Okay, now we're going to reverse direction. This side, follow me first, and everyone else go shortly after your neighbor going across this way. All right, thank you, everyone.
You can flick the water off your shoulders if you want. Every week, we take up an offering in support of our liberal religious values. Half of the loose currency placed in the offering plate goes to a cause with a local presence, which resonates with UU principles. If you're watching on YouTube, you might choose to donate directly to the organization online. Our Share the Plate recipient for September, selected a long time ago actually, is Planned Parenthood, a nonprofit health care provider offering a wide range of patient services for sexual and reproductive health. We encourage you to learn more about Planned Parenthood by visiting their website, plannedparenthood.org. I invite you to give with a generous heart as we hear a gift of music from our pianist, Jay Goff. We come to the time for sharing of joys and concerns. When we share our joys, others can join us in our gladness. And when we share our sorrows, people can reach out and offer their care, which I know folks are often eager to do in this community. If you are online, I invite you to put a comment in the comment area if you have a joy or concern that you'd like me to lift up here. I want to start with the joy of saying happy birthday to Lita Magisana. Glad to have you here on your birthday, Lita. And a concern from Denise Elaine, keeping my Rhode Island family in my heart as they say goodbye to our beloved Kaylee. Our thoughts are with you, Denise. Okay, not seeing any in the comments. Okay, Paley would like to share, do you have a new family member who what? A Sphinx cat named Delilah. Okay, welcome to the hairless cat. Daniel has started reading. Oh, that's so exciting. Yay. And I hope all of our kiddos who are back in school, 5, 6, 7 weeks now, are enjoying their school year. As we hold and care all of those who know both joys and sorrows, I invite you to join me in a centering song. We'll keep our eyes open this time, and you might want the teal hymnal for number 1009. This is Meditation on Breathing. Our choir director, William Miller, is going to direct us all, starting with the melody, which is the alto line. And we'll do that a couple of times, and then the choir, I think, is going to jump in with some of the parts, and you can do so too if you're so moved. Meditation on Breathing. We continue in a mood of contemplation, and I invite you to try a sort of guided meditation today, engaging all our senses. You can take a few deep breaths if you like, but I'm going to keep my eyes open, and you might want to too. We're going to get in touch with the flow of life through water. And any kids or anyone who has a rhythm ribbon, I invite you, if you're willing, to actually come out into the center aisle here. Christina is going to show you, and you can join her if you will. And what you're going to do is walk back and forth slowly from the front to the back of the sanctuary, gently waving your ribbon to create for us a river in the middle of our sanctuary. There we go. There's our river. Now let's each imagine that we've come to rest by the river, and all of the senses have come alive here. We see the motions of the waters flowing by. If it's a small stream or creek, there might be water striders on the surface, those little bugs that seem to walk on water. If it's a large river, the water might be faster in some sections, maybe in the middle. And we might see a piece of driftwood float on by. You might notice that the air feels damp on your skin here near the river. And it feels damp in your nostrils as you breathe in. There's a kind of marshy smell to it too. You know that river smell? And you can almost taste the earthiness on your tongue. What sounds might we hear along the river? You can make any sounds you imagine. Maybe there are eddies along the edges that are splashing a bit. Or maybe a fish jumps out and then back in. Does anybody hear birds? What do the birds sound like in the river? Now let's say there are some clouds in the sky and they reflect on the surface of the water. So you kind of have sky and earth meeting each other, earth moving the picture of the sky. Now, the water looks cool and refreshing, but do you drink the river water? No, you know better than to drink the river water. But perhaps you'd like to dip your fingers or your toes in. Go ahead, you can feel it. How does it feel? Wet? Refreshing? Maybe smooth as the river flows on past, and it drips from your fingers when you lift them back out. Okay, now I invite all of our river makers to sit right where you are in the river with your ribbons. Here we go. And each of you, if you're so inclined, may want to close your eyes now for a moment. And imagine what else you might experience along this river with your senses. Notice any feelings that arise in your body or in your heart as you continue to watch the river go by. Let's just sit in silence like this for a bit by the river until I ring the bell. Thank you to all of our river makers. You can go back to your seats. Water ingatherings have become a tradition in most Unitarian Universalist churches since the first such time a water ritual was held among UUs in 1980. So this month, many other UU congregations are joining together in worship in large numbers after the summer months and carrying on some version of a water ritual, as we will do today. This practice connects us not only with each other here in Omaha, but with UUs all across the country. Let's listen to an ingathering message from Susan Frederick Gray, president of our National Unitarian Universalist Association.
Hello, Unitarian Universalists. I'm the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, president of your Unitarian Universalist Association. It is so good to be with you for another season of Ingathering. This time marks the end of summer, when we come together to renew our commitments to each other, to our Unitarian Universalist communities, and to begin another vital year of ministry. In the summer months, I hope that you and your loved ones found some time to rejuvenate your bodies and spirits, to rest, to enjoy the long summer days, to pursue hobbies that bring you joy. I know that the world is all too much, and it matters that we take time to rest. For rest is necessary for the quality of our lives, of our ministries, and of our spirits. We are all living in what I have come to call a liminal time, a time in between. The pandemic has upended so much. After 2 years plus of virtual and hybrid gatherings in our congregations, the ways in which people connect to religious community has broadened, and new patterns are still emerging. On so many levels, what comes next is still unfolding and being imagined. As Unitarian Universalists, we are called to care for each other and to create resilient, theologically imaginative spiritual community that sustains us and inspires us as we navigate what's to come and what is needed. And there is so much needed. From supporting access to reproductive care to showing up through UU the Vote to elect leaders that will work to protect our children, our planet, our future, and our deeply held values. It also matters that we attend to doing the fundamentals of religious community, like supporting children and families recovering from, and in some cases still experiencing, the collective trauma of the last few years. Our world needs our message of love and justice. Our world needs brave, bold, and loving communities that are in the struggle for equity, dignity, and compassion. One way to join with your sibling Unitarian Universalists in this work is through UU the Vote. You can find out more at uuthevote.org. Your Unitarian Universalist Association is the embodiment of the covenant that all of our congregations make to each other to support each other. And the UUA is here because of your commitment to make and support and amplify our values, to support each of our congregations in their time of need, and to be more than any of us are alone. At the UUA, we are committed to being steadfast partners with you in this liminal time and in all that is ahead. As you gather in this sacred hour and join again in community, may we each remember the hundreds and thousands of Unitarian Universalists that are gathering all across our association, celebrating and calling themselves back into the power and the possibility of faithful community. For we are not alone, and we make each other strong. I send you my love and my blessings as we enter this new congregation year and celebrate Ingathering. Much love and deep care to all of you.
Water symbolizes connection. It cycles endlessly through our ecosystem and through our very bodies. Water reminds us of our connection to the land on which we dwell, which supports our lives. Water is life. It reminds us of our connection to each other as we rekindle the ties of community with a new church year. The water ritual evolves and takes new forms in different historic moments and places. There are 3 steps to our water ritual this year. First, if you brought some water with you, when you're invited up, you can pour it into this common bowl on your right. Or if you didn't know or think to bring water, you can take a scoop from the extra river water here and scoop that in to the common bowl. The second step then is if you'd like to receive a water blessing from me, I'll be right here, and you can just come in front of me and hold your palm up for that water blessing. If you don't want to do that, you can just go around. And then the third step is to come around this way. Got a lovely bowl of rocks from the Platte River Valley here. You may remember that these were incorporated into my installation service last spring. And at that special service, some of the river rocks, which were blessed by members of the congregation, were placed in our chalice under the candle. I put some of them afterwards into one of our garden plots out in the church. And the remainder are here, and I'm inviting you to take one home with you today with a sense of connection and the blessing of this community coming with you. You can put it anywhere that's meaningful to you in your home or your garden. So here's how we're going to do this, practically speaking. When each row comes forward, please come up the center aisle. You come around, do your ritual things, and then when you're done, come around past the piano. No matter where you're sitting, you're going to go back down this aisle and back around into your seat. That way we won't run into each other, okay? And we'll also steer clear of our tech equipment. So let's go ahead and start from the two back rows if you'd like to start lining up here. And then other rows can follow as you're ready, as you don't have to have a long line if you don't want to. Just when you're ready, you can come forward. Now this is an activity for all ages, so kids are welcome to come too. And I'm going to take a moment while folks are lining up to speak to those online. Whether you are online this very Sunday morning or you attend later in the week. An acknowledgement of all of our online attendees. Hold on just a moment, if you would. I'm going to scoop in some water representing those who join us online this week and many weeks. Some here in the metro area stay close to home all the time due to health concerns or limitations in mobility. We know others are still laying low because of risks related to COVID. And some folks are still connected to our congregation who live in another state, and we're glad to have you still with us too. So wherever you are, however you participate, I scoop in some water for you. And now, I'll let you know when. Now, online participants, if you have some water there next to you, you can help me offer you a water blessing. You can hold up your palm like this, dip your other hand into your water, and touch it like this. This is just for the online folks. And I give you this blessing. May you be blessed by your connection to the sacred web of life, including this community. Okay, let's see. And as our sanctuary attendees, you can go ahead and begin now. Now you can go ahead and start. And I'm going to mention for those at home that if you want to go and find an object to hold in your hand that reminds you of bodies of water, this is a good time to do so. Maybe it's a rock, a fossil, a shell from the ocean. That's okay, I'm going to do that part. And Jay Goff is going to play a little music for us, and anyone who wants to hum along who recognizes the melody can do that. Okay, so pour some water, come here for a blessing, and then a rock. Okay. You experience your interconnectedness with all of life. Elizabeth Lerner McClay writes, as drops of rain find each other and build to become a track, a rivulet, a stream, a river, a sea, so are we drawn together. So are we bound together on this shared passage toward an unknown ocean and eternity. It's a joy to have the sanctuary singers back. Thank you all. Last spring, the day I was finally officially installed as the church's settled minister at a special service here, we had an Ask the Minister service the following Sunday. Folks had the chance to ask me a question about anything, and I would answer it on the spot. One of those questions was, why do you love rivers? And I want to share a little bit more about that than the 2 sentences I probably said last April. Oh, and by the way, as I'm sharing, I invite you to feel the heft and the sturdiness and the reliability of the rock in your hand, which I think is a bit like how a spiritual community can be for people. We heard these words in the Sanctuary Singers' anthem, "River run, set my spirit free." I feel a bit freer when I gaze at a river, especially a sizable river that moves along with its own inbuilt momentum, like the Missouri, which I visit often now. When I look at such a river, I know that it came from somewhere, just like you and me, and it's going somewhere too. Rivers don't get stuck. Down mountains, through forests, around rocky bends, wherever they flow, they are moving onward. "River, run me to the ocean," sang the choir. "River, take me to the sea." The mystic in me loves rivers for that very metaphor. All rivers eventually reach the sea, just as we all come home to the infinite, sooner or later, our consciousness merging with the consciousness of all, as I understand it. What Emerson called the oversoul, or Hindus call the Atman with a capital A. "River, you will be my refuge and guide," they sang. A river is a refuge and guide to me, a place to come back to through different seasons in nature, different seasons of my life, a place to feel a bit of clarity and easing of agitation. A caring church community can be like that too. People need a refuge, especially when they are facing life challenges or have come through the other side of transitions. Ancient philosopher Heraclitus observed, "In the same river, ever different waters flow." There's a sense of continuity for me in coming back to a place that's always there for you when you want to visit. And at the same time, no place is static. Just as you can never stand in the same river twice, as Heraclitus is often paraphrased. When we return to a river, a church, or some other beloved place, we will likely find that it is different than it used to be. It can still be a refuge, and perhaps one that can meet the moment for us and for others. So rivers give me a sense of freedom. They remind me I belong to something greater than myself in the limited way I usually understand myself. And through both the continuity and the change they represent, they are a place of refuge to me. I also respond to the peace of a river. Sit along a river, float down it on an inner tube, or glide down it on a kayak or canoe, and it soothes all of the senses. Such beauty in water and sky, current and reflection, center and shoreline. I respond to the peace of a river. I respond to the power of a river too. These waterways shape landscapes, creating canyons and oxbow lakes. They provide homes for countless creatures in the water and on the shores and marshes. Whole ecosystems develop around rivers, riparian ecosystems. Rivers are nature's transportation system too. They transport not only water as part of the larger water cycle, but they also carry sediment and goods and people. For as long as humans have been around, it seems, wherever we have migrated, rivers have fed us with fish, nurtured agriculture in their floodplains, and helped us get from place to place. So many civilizations, including those of what we now call the Midwest on this continent, were founded on rivers because rivers are powerful. Rivers bring life. Rivers represent life and all the flora and fauna that flourish among them, but they also show us how life operates inside of us. We are full of red and blue rivers and all their tributaries. Did you know that if you took all the blood vessels out of an average child, maybe like a child sitting in this sanctuary right now, and you laid those blood vessels out in a line, the line would stretch over 60,000 miles? One child. An adult's blood vessels would be more like 100,000 miles long. Now, 100,000 is a big number. I have a hard time wrapping my head around numbers like that. How far is that really? Well, two of the farthest apart cities on Earth, Cordoba, Spain, and Hamilton, New Zealand, are over 12,000 miles apart. So if my blood vessels were all stretched out, they could zigzag back and forth across the globe between Spain and New Zealand more than 8 times. I find it just as marvelous to see myself as a body of rivers, rivaling the rivers on the planet, as to learn that I am made of star stuff. We are a microcosm in here of the world out there. All of this is true, and these are genuine responses for me. But when asked the question of why I love rivers so, probably the deepest reason in my being is that a major river is home to me. I grew up on the Mississippi River on the other side of Iowa, and that imprinted deep in me somehow, as the landscapes of their childhood seem to do for many people. I didn't realize this for a long time because I didn't live on a river for a long time. But when I came back here, and now I live along the Missouri and go there often, I have a visceral response every time I get to that river. I just feel home. Do you know what I mean? I love this stole that was presented as a gift to me at the installation service last spring, not only because it was handmade with great care by several gifted fabric artists in the congregation, but also because it features 2 rivers. Gene Wagner explained that one river was the major river of my childhood, the Mississippi. See, that would be the one on your right. And the other is for the major river here, the Missouri. And it has all these details on it related to the plants and the animals of this place. There are cattails and little sparkles on the water and geese flying in formation and wildflowers, and it's just marvelous. And there's a warm, glowing chalice. And anybody recognize this church up here on one shoulder? It's beautiful. It's not a coincidence that the choir sang at that installation service a little song I had written once called Coming Home, which features river imagery. I'm going to sing it to you here, and choir members, if you remember it, you can join in with me. I return to myself, here where I belong. I am coming home, like a bird to its nest, like a river to the ocean. I am coming home. I also chose rivers as the theme of my gift for you. It wasn't quite ready at the installation, so I presented it at the service around Earth Day, and it's our new chalice that we've been using since then. If you haven't taken a close look at it, there are 3 rivers that meet in the cup and that meet right underneath where the candle is now, representing our major rivers in Nebraska, the Missouri, the Platte, and the Niobrara. And around the side of it are river plants and birds. I chose rivers as a focal point for the chalice, this ritual that we do every Sunday here, not just because I personally love rivers, but because I believe our connection to the land where we live and the water where we live is essential to our identity as a people of this place. People survive and thrive and feel whole when they live in harmony with the sacred web of life of which we are a part. The sacred web of life and water in our particular place. I am glad to be here with you. I look forward to a year of connection, joy, growth, and meaning making, plus a fun party on October 28th in this place together. May it be so. Amen. I invite you to stand if that feels good to your body and join in our closing hymn, number 100, Peace Like a River. Remember, if you'd like to participate in the COVID Q&A with Dr. Larson and other members of our COVID Safety Task Force, please stay in the sanctuary after worship. We'll gather in front of the pews. We're not able to stream this online, but we are going to post a recording later for those online who want to see it. Words of Kaylee Rice. It starts with a drop, then a trickle, a burble, a rush of water bubbling toward its destination, and finally the wide, endless sea. All rivers run to the sea. Today you brought water, poured it into a common bowl. Though our experiences have differed, these waters mingle, signifying our common humanity. Today you came and shared in this sacred community. May you depart this sacred space, hearts filled with hope for new beginnings, a fresh start. Go forth But return to this community where rivers of tears may be shed, where dry souls are watered, where your joy bubbles, where your life cup overflows, where deep in your spirit, I hope you have found in this place a home. All rivers run to the sea.